Thank you for tuning in to another episode of Golden Llama Show. Today, straight from the heaven, we have Sallyann, which an angelic channeler. So I'm gonna go straight to the point. You got a direct line to the guardian angels. So I have to ask, did they ever give you tips on where to find Atlantis? No, I'm just joking. On more serious note, how did you first discover your ability to communicate with guardian angels? And what was that experience like?
Well, I was in college. So I was in my early 20s and I had gone out with my girls and we were in a restaurant and I looked across the restaurant and there was a gentleman standing in a position that I wouldn't normally stand in. And I felt really sad and depressed and all these emotions that I knew weren't mine. And then I realized I was standing in that strange position. And I kind of kind of freaked out a little bit. It's not something I'd ever felt. I knew that I was happy there, so I couldn't understand why I had these feelings. And so it was before, cell phones, and I ran back to the dorm room and I called my mother and I basically said, "You need to come pick me up right now. I'm having a nervous breakdown." And she's like, "Tell me what's going on." So I explained the emotions and how I didn't think they fit with who I was at that time and how they came on. And we're New Yorkers. So we're very direct and to the point. And my mother's like, "Oh, you're fine. You're just psychic." And I was shocked actually, because I had never heard that terminology in my growing up. Yes, as I look back on it, absolutely. My whole family is. My grandmother would have dreams and say, "Come here. This is going to happen. And don't do that." And then, you're a kid and you do that. And she'd smack me on the top of the head and tell me to don't do it again. And then 3 days later, she'd say, "Okay, I have a dream and this is going to happen." And sure enough, it would happen. And I would learn and do what she told me to do. And so, my mother knew who was on the phone before there was such a thing as caller ID. And so I had this awareness. So she got me into some training within a couple of months and I was able to meet my guardian angels and see some past lives and understand, I guess, about my empathic abilities because I think, back then, 40 years ago, people didn't know what an empath was. Like that wasn't part of the vernacular. And while I go by angel reader or clairvoyant because I get my messages in a number of ways. So they're not just feelings, but I see them, I feel them. Sometimes I smell the message. And it's all this wonderful language that the guardians have taught me. So I've stepped into my power and it's a pretty amazing feeling to live in my space. I'm very blessed.
That sounds so dope. And regarding highly sensitive people that are called empaths, it seems there are more and more these days. It is said approximately 20% of all people are highly sensitive. And it all starts with this traumatic event that triggered us to be hyper vigilant of our surrounding. But let's go back speaking about guardian angel and the etiquette to speaking with them. When you communicate with guardian angels, do you find they have a particular personality or a sense of humor? How do you maintain a respectful connection while still being open to their unique guidance?
I am very, very purposeful when I communicate with them. And it's funny because it didn't start out that way. It started out not with me being disrespectful, but almost them being disrespectful. I worked in New York City and used to travel a lot. And, it's New York City. It's like any big, giant city. There's lots of spirit around, there's lots of energy around. And I used to have to travel for work. So I was in and out of airports, which, they love to get stuck there. And so I would hear them. They'd be like, "She can hear us, she can hear us." And I'd be surrounded by them. And one specific time, there was one spirit and he kept kind of chasing me down. And here I am and, JFK just trying to get home after a work trip. And I remember I just stopped in the middle of the walkway and I was like, what do you want? Right. Cause they were all over me. And he said, "Second gate, yellow sweater, yellow book. You need to go find her. Second gate, yellow sweater, yellow book." And back at that time, The gates were actually little rooms. They were like 3-walled rooms, not like when you go to the airport now and they're all open and you can see the doors. And so I counted twice. I looked in the room, and sure enough, there was a woman wearing a yellow sweater, and she had a book cover on her book, and it was yellow. And I walked up to her and I said, "Hi, I know you don't know me, but did your Uncle Fred die like 3 months ago?" And she looked up at me like, yeah, she said. I said, "Okay, well, I want you to know this." And I gave her the message, and I don't remember what the message is because it's not for me. And I skedaddled out of there, right? Because I'm like, oh my gosh, this person doesn't know me, shouldn't ask for this message. And so that actually is a very, very pivotal moment in my story, how I communicate with angels and how I choose to get their messages. Because at that time, though I think differently now, but at that time I thought, what if I wasn't supposed to give her that message? What if I just messed with her day? What if I just threw her off kilter? And that's not my job. My job is to support humans, help them find their path, get answers. And I was like, wow, what if I did the exact opposite? So from that day, I'm very intentional. I key in when I choose to key in. And unless there's something urgent, then, my main guardian angel, he lets me call him George, will communicate with me, and I hear him, I see him, I feel him. But other people, I need your permission to go there. Right? I don't want to be the person in the gym that's on the treadmill and look to the guy to my left and be like, "Oh, your brother who passed on really wants you to know this." That's not really what I consider my job. That's one of the boundaries that I put up because I'm here to serve the living, not only those that have passed. Now, with saying that, there's a lot of work that I've done in the past that have served those that have passed. I used to work for police departments and private investigators, um, but just, you know, normal humans that need closure or to know what the next steps are. So I hope that answers the question about like how my boundaries are, because it's just really important to me to serve the living and to be respectful to the messages they need to get when they're ready to get them.
I actually love that. All flowers bloom in due time, yet if you force a flower to bloom, it will cause a karma in your life. This energy connection between you and that person that you're doing, the activity that you're doing, and not necessarily best for that person because nature never rushes. Everything is done on time. So, with that being in mind, I do have another question about the angel hotline. If Baby Llama had one question to ask Guardian Angel, what do you think it should be? And what's the most common question people ask their guardian angels when they connect through you?
I will say that the majority of the questions that people ask are if they're on their path. And that's kind of like this umbrella question, right? Because are you on your path in love, in health, in career? So I think those are the most common questions. They kind of wrap around those things about how to maneuver life, because sometimes it's hard and sometimes you might be on your path, but man, you're on that very edge. How do I get back to the middle, right? Where there's lots of leeway. So I think those are the most common questions. And I don't know, what's the thing that comes to your mind the most of the question that you want to ask? I mean, because I think that that's important, right? Sometimes we just need closure. We need to know what the next step is. So we ask the question to our guardian angels who can answer some questions or at least put you on the right path.
Being on the right path is so important. You have over 4 decades of experience as a Reiki Master, a medium. So your healing toolbox is pretty epic. How do you blend this various practices, Reiki angel readings, intuitive coaching, into holistic healing experience for your clients? And if a baby llama were to book a session, what would you recommend?
So for you, Baby Llama, I feel like you're very enlightened. So I don't know if you need an angel message, but typically clients will come to me or call me because I can do a lot of my work over the phone, because when you tune in, there's no time and space, right? When you go to those different levels and change my vibration, There's no time and space. So I can be anywhere at any time. And I have many international clients. Basically start the same way. I need permission to talk to your guardian angels. And then I kind of like to prove it to myself. I'm still a little bit of a cynical New Yorker. And I say that in jest, but the reality is that channeling messages from your guardians for you to take seriously is serious business. It's a huge responsibility. And it's really, really important to me that we resonate, that we understand what the message is. And so I tell my clients, if it doesn't make sense, then let me know. It's not about me being right. It's about you getting the message you need to get. And I can scan somebody. I can find out what aches and why. I am a little different than I'm going to say most psychics is because I can solve the problem. I can help you solve the problem. Either way, it's Reiki, so I can scan you, I can send you energy, we can work on your chakras, we can release those things that have blockages in your body that affect you stepping forward in your life or doing some of the tasks that maybe you need to do. I like to say walking through the doors that God gives us. And so that could be part of an angel session. And then the intuitive coaching and trying to decipher what is said from your angels and from your experience. So this way, then it resonates, you understand. Sometimes people just want to know where they've come from. I am very linear. So it's like, let's talk about past. Let's talk about where you are right now. And then, yeah, let's talk about the future. It is the most likely thing that will happen. I mean, we have free will. So it's the most likely thing that will happen today. And we can talk to that. So this way, again, you can decide to have some closure in a moment or something to look forward to or something to work toward.
I love that. So it seems you are just a vessel for that energy to speak and work through you. How do you draw the line between angels and yourself?
That's an excellent question. It's funny. I have a client that I talked to yesterday, and he's very intuitive. And I've been working with him for a couple of years, maybe 3 or 4 years. And he can totally tell when Sallyan's talking and when Spirit's talking. He says that the pitch in my voice changes. And I know that as Sallyann, like my voice doesn't change drastically, right? I think my cadence changes. I talk different, according to my friends that know and love me for many years. But it is conscious effort to keep Sallyann out of the way because sometimes they'll translate a message that I need to say to you or to someone else, and they show me something in my life so I can relate. So I might tell you that story and say, the reason I'm telling you this story is because, and then we can delve into the personality or what the feelings are. So this way you can hopefully resonate to what Spirit is trying to tell you. And I will say, I'm going to say 97% of the time, most people get it right away. They'll be like, that means this to me. Because I'll be like, does that resonate with you? Right? Like, I don't know if a yellow flower resonates with them, but they may be like, yes, absolutely. I know what that means. So and then we get to talk about that and delve deeper into it. Because if you get the basic part of it, then we can get all the little offshoots of it as well. So it's really comforting to a lot of people. And it also like fills my bucket for what, I get to do every day.
So it's literally giving people signs, as in if they would be on a travel so they can reach their destination without them interfering with the process, as many people do. I also know that you've cleared quite a lot of homes and businesses, and I have eaten snacks. What's the wildest or most unexpected shift you've witnessed after an energy clearing? And what could your potential customers expect? And what should they focus on first?
So, yes, I can clear space again, long distance or locally. There is a well off town in the Phoenix area, and there's realtors up there, and they actually call me their secret weapon. So when they can't sell a home, the home's on the market for a certain number of days, they actually call me up and go in and clear the space. And those houses sell within 2 weeks. And how that first happened is there was a house on the market for 2 years without one bite. I went in, I cleared the house because I knew I met the owner's sister. And we went in and we had to clear it because there was a lot of death there. The prior owners, the people that built the house, had to do with like blood diamonds in Africa and kind of what they brought there. And then this owner, her husband died in that house, and there was a lot of sadness and issues that happened within the house. And sure enough, within 2 weeks, that house had sold. So I sell a lot of multi-million dollar homes for people, which brings me a lot of, comfort and happiness that people can move on and they're going into a home that's clean and clear and doesn't have a lot of issues, right? Because there's some houses I've cleared that every couple that moves in. I know one house that 5 couples moved in, 5 divorces, and that's why the house kept going up. So the realtor can continue to sell it. She called me. She said, something's wrong with this house. And sure enough, I was able to clear that space out. So it just feels calmer. The energy changes. I like to say, like, do you have a dump and run room? Like a room you just keep putting stuff in and then you skedaddle out, and you put stuff in and you skedaddle out, or there's lots of clutter and it doesn't feel good in there. That's typically stuck energy. Then I can move out. So this way it feels beautiful and calm. So you can sleep better. You can focus better. I've done businesses in New York City. I've done theaters, a lot of theaters. So this way we can get rid of the anxiety, the emotion that gets left in that space. Because when thousands and thousands and thousands of people walk through doors, that we all bring our own stuff with us. And sometimes it's not all lovely. So sleeping better, feeling calmer, having like your computers not freak out on you, having your children sleep, having your dog stop barking in the corner, not having issues when you're renovating or living, right? Those are all the things that clearing energy to neutralize it and bring in loving light or after effects of that clearing. So it's a pretty powerful and beautiful way. And you will feel it within the day. Some people feel it as they're in the house. It's so funny because I'll be working with someone, I'll be like, oh, and the blue couch is to the left, right? And I'll be like, what? And I'm like, I'm sorry, don't freak out. I'm walking in your house. I'm here. I'm not in Ireland while I'm walking through the house. But spiritually, I am walking through the house. So I can feel the energy. I can see the stuff areas. I can help people move on. Super blessed to have Archangel Michael show up and help people transition up to heaven because, there's so much stuck spirit here on earth. And St. Francis come to help move the animals out that are there. So it's pretty profound and cathartic.
What about for someone who's always on the move? How important is it to keep your space balanced? Can you share some tips on how anyone can start clearing their space, even without a psychic medium on a speed dial?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I do buy I used to buy sage. I don't need sage anymore. But if you were to buy sage and use that sage bundle, get it from an indigenous source because you want to make sure like you bless that item that you're blessing your home with. So I have them on my website. If you want to learn how to sage, go to my blog and download all the tips for free because there is a very specific way that you should do it so you can honor the tradition of saging and clearing and protecting yourself, right? Because I think that's a big fear of people is they don't want to step into that space because what if something creepy attaches to them? So there is a beautiful way that you can protect yourself. I have a friend, she's Roman Catholic. So she says the Our Father, right? And that's what she feels protects herself. I wrap me and the animals and anyone else in the house in white light. So I visualize myself in a giant egg, if you will, that's golden and lovely. And then I start walking through space, paying really great attention to mirrors and corners. And I use the Reiki power symbol to kind of push in good, strong energy. Also, what I say, and if people are using sage or just blessing the home, is really to ask for your protection from your guardian angels, because even if you can't see them, they're there, right? We're all born with guardian angels. They're always around. So ask for that protection and You can walk through your house, especially if there's a tough room that is hard to concentrate or can't sleep, and just visualize this clearing and ask for God's loving white light, God, source, universe, whatever your word is, this higher power energy to come in and keep you protected and loved. And so that's how like I would do it. That's how I recommend people do it. Get a salt lamp so you can put that in that room. That the ions that come off that pink Himalayan salt are really purifying. That light, won't cause a fire. I mean, don't leave for 20 hours with it going. Like you have to be smart about your own home. But there are elements that you can bring into your home that will still make it feel clear, calm, restful, because that's the point, right? We want to live in a space that makes us happy.
If guardian angels had a life hack for every situation, what would be their top three tips for living a balanced and joyful life?
Tip number one, no doubt about it. Trust yourself. Trust yourself. Only you know what is right for you. Trust yourself. You can balance other people's opinions, but man, go back to who you are. Trust. And then the other thing I would say is breathe. Like really breathe. Be in the moment. Understand what's happening. So this way, then you can process it. So, and processing is really processing, doing the work to get all the way through, to ask yourself these questions. So this way, the last question, it should be a positive one. You should wind up with a positive comment at the end. And that's what real processing is. It's getting through all the muck and all the ick until you can ask yourself a positive question and get a positive answer. And that's what I'd say the three would be.
These days, do you have any spiritual practice that you go to when you're anxious or stressed or just need to recharge your batteries?
Yeah, I do. They always make sure that I breathe. And I know that may sound strange, but I once ran away from home for 3 days and I sat on a beach. And for one whole day, all I did is teach myself to breathe. So diaphragmatic breathing. So this way I can get as much oxygen into my bodies, because a lot of us, when, turn to your friend and say, oh, take a deep breath, and you'll watch their shoulders go up. That's shallow breathing. That's not breathing from your gut. Like, you got to breathe like your belly comes out. And so this way you can get a lot of that oxygen. And I ground myself. I ground myself either in a meditation. I surround myself with my guardian angels. There's a whole number of ways that I do that for me, so I can continue to do this work and still be a good human to my community that's around, right? Because sometimes it can be a lot to be surrounded by spirit. It's also really fruitful to my life and to the people around me. And so because it's such a serious, intentional modality, I try, while I am a laugher and a lover, I also really try to be very serious about my life.
And I do know that you have some manifestation techniques as well. It seems your array of skills never ends. You have some powerful tools like empowerment through gratitude journal or vision board manifestation in 5 steps. What inspired those creations and how can they help someone who's just beginning their journey of self discovery and empowerment?
It's a great question. And I really believe that I received these all and downloaded them from heaven for my guardian angels at a time when I needed them or somebody else needed them. So, yes, on Amazon and Kindle, you can buy the workbook for manifestation. It's actually through the thought is to make a vision board, right? So, get together with your people and start working through them. But it's not like, oh, these are the things I want. They're really, really thoughtful questions and the work that really brings you through like a thoughtful process. So this vision board at the end of the day, the end of your segment really speaks to you and you can grow with it. And then gratitude. So this gratitude journal is very different than most. It's actually built around your chakras. So while I think, yes, there's a fabulous need. People need the need that says, what am I grateful for? And there's 375 days and you're writing it every day. That is not how mine ends. It is broken out into 7 sections because there's 7 chakras of your body that affect you emotionally and physically. And there's 15 prompts that mix and match throughout a couple of weeks that ask you questions that help you evolve to be able to answer the question at the end of the chapter. And at the end of the chapter, you should be able to answer a question that you couldn't answer at the beginning of the chapter because you've brought all this love and light energy into one of your chakra systems that help you on this journey of empowerment and feeling good. So that's the gratitude journal. And then so grateful to be part of a book that just went international bestseller with Jim Britt. And that's called Cracking the Rich Code. So chapter 4, I'm a co-author, and it talks about empowerment and my journey on how I've gotten to empowerment. So that's, available on heavenslightwellness.com. And that chapter is really the introduction to the empowerment approach, which will be available by the end of October. So that is a 5-step process for people to take to work through. So this way they can empower themselves.
If your guardian angels were to start a book club, what would be on the reading list? And apart from empowerment, do you wish to impart any other wisdom that you hope your readers take away from reading this book?
I think empowerment encompasses a lot of things. I think perspective is really, really important. That I call it a sliding scale of priority or perspective on what your day is like, who you are. I think a lot of times we don't tell ourselves the truth, right? I think they call the word gaslighting now. But the truth is we beat ourselves up. And if you really step back and said, is that the truth? You'd probably say, no, I don't really think that's the truth. Or would my best friend say this about me? So I think being careful and being honest about what the perspective of what is happening to you is really important. And I think that leads to empowerment. I think there's a lot of things in our life that ultimately being able to move forward, being able to be truthful to ourselves, and being able to live in gratitude. And all of those things are empowering our lives to be who we want to be, to get back on our path, to go forward, to live our best life. So, well, empowerment is like this big umbrella word. It is usually the end result of moving forward in different areas to become empowered, to take responsibility for our life, to know that we have value, to give ourselves permission to live the life that we deserve.
It sounds like you help a lot of people. Can you share a success story from someone who used the methods that you mentioned? And what advice would you give to someone whose vision board is about to be created for the first time?
Well, I think with a vision board, it's really important to have fun, number one, and to be truthful. I think that people have like preconceived notion of what a vision board needs to be. And it's funny because when we do vision board workshops, I'm like, take 3, but make sure and give yourself the time to create 3. Make sure there's a time to it. So I think a big thing that maybe humans do, we do, I'll include myself sometimes, is that we don't tell the universe what we want. We need to tell the universe what we want. We need, because they have a great person, they have a great sense of humor sometimes, right? So we need to say exactly what we want, be truthful, and know that we deserve it. Because if I ask 10 people, do you want to win $1 million? People would say, yes, I want to win $1 million. If I ask those same 10 people, do you think you deserve $1 million? Maybe one would say yes. And so that is the trick of manifestation, is to say, yeah, I deserve $1 million because, right? And whatever your because is, it's not judgmental. It is what it is. But if in our hearts we don't think we deserve it, it won't happen, right? If in our hearts we don't think we deserve a loving relationship, it's going to be hard for it to happen. It may show up, but we may shoo it away. In our hearts, if we don't think we deserve to be happy, it might be a little harder to be happy. So working on any type of manifestation or things that you want in your life, really start with you. And that's where I guess we go back to that empowerment, right? If I feel I'm worthy, then I can live in gratitude and I can trust myself and I can understand what my priorities are. And therefore, I am empowered to live my life.
And everything aligns in place. Also, being
Mhm.
authentic, which is just another word for what you said, is the highest form of love, of self love. Now,
Mhm.
I'm sold. If people would want to know more about you, or know more about your work, what you do, and how it can benefit them, how can they contact you?
Hey, thanks so much for asking. So.com. You can sign up for a newsletter. You can call me on, the US line is 602-799-5279. You can make an appointment through the website. Also, in social media, YouTube, Instagram, TikTok, Heaven's Light Wellness. So we're present in all of those things. What I like to do is once a week do angel card pulls. And so they are positive affirmations of a deck that I created with the help of my heavens up there, my angels. And we pull a positive message once a week. So this way people can get that message and hopefully feel like it resonates with them. I have a lot of clients that have their own deck, and I get text messages all the time saying exactly what I needed to hear today. This positive message is exactly what I needed. It resonates with me. So I wanted to share that with the world, with whoever kind of stumbles across it or purposely finds that message, because that's the intention. The person that needs to hear this will hear it.
The links are down below. Thank you all for listening. And Sallyann, thank you for joining us. And stay tuned for another episode.